Hi Disney friends, it's Amber with MickeyTravels. Let's talk Fastpass attractions today. I've got a list of my top 10 attractions at Disney World that you must Fastpass. A common question that I get as a travel agent is, what are your suggestions for making a Fastpass? And since there are 4 parks at Disney, I have various suggestions for each park. The way that I've split this up is I've picked the 10 out of all the parks put together that I think that you should Fastpass. Now there's a common misconception with these. Clients that I have think that they have to Fastpass attractions that they want to do because they think that they're not going to be able to get in line for them. Your method of selecting a Fastpass should be you want to pick the ones that are going to have the longest lines. So you get to ride anything and everything that you want while you're at the Disney parks. But with the Fastpass, you should be thinking about picking the ones that are going to have the longest lines of the day. There are some that you should not Fastpass at all, but just because you want to ride it doesn't mean, oh, I need to get a Fastpass for it because I know my daughter really wants to ride this ride. The strategy should be that you should be picking Fastpasses based on line lengths. So that's what my list is all about. I've picked the 10 that I think and have seen have the longest lines from anywhere to peak summer to springtime when there's no one there. It doesn't matter. They're going to have lines from anywhere to 30 minutes or to 2 hours. So I've also, because of Disney's Fastpass system having tiers where you have to select one from a selection and then you can pick 2 from another, that happens with Epcot and Hollywood Studios. I've kind of put 2 together that I said you need to pick this one or this one. Okay? So let's get going. I have these in somewhat of an order. I don't have them based on parks. The ones that came to my mind first are the ones that are at the top of the list, and then toward the end are the ones that, I mean, you can consider getting a Fastpass for, but maybe not necessary. The infamous Anna and Elsa. Anna and Elsa Fastpasses go very quickly. When making your Fastpass selections, if you're doing them yourself, you will want to be sure you can get on the day that they open up to get an Anna and Elsa Fastpass. The trend is showing that people that are staying on Disney property will obviously have the chance to see Anna and Elsa, and those that are off property are not getting those Fastpasses. You can make your entire Fastpass selections if you're staying on property the day that your first day of check-in is. So if I go in and I make my Fastpass selections, you're probably going to notice with Anna and Elsa that your first half of the trip may be already filled. So tip, if you're going to see Anna and Elsa, it needs to be toward the end of your trip, so make sure you do have a Magic Kingdom day planned for the end of your vacation. If you don't have a Fastpass for Anna and Elsa, I do have a video that's strategies to meet them. They're going to have long waits all throughout. Extra magic hours, take advantage of them, and then maybe plan to be there at rope drop to see them. Next on my list, Toy Story Mania or Rock and Roller Coaster. Toy Story Mania is going to have the longer waits. However, you may have thrill seekers in your party, so Rock and Roller Coaster may be more of a priority. It used to be that when the park opened at Hollywood Studios, it would be like the Toy Story Marathon. Everyone would run to that attraction when we used to have paper Fastpasses. They would Fastpass it, ride it, and then use their Fastpass again. That's a strategy you can still use. If you're going to be riding Toy Story Mania more than once, you may want to make a mid-morning Fastpass reservation and then still go ride it first thing you get there so you can get that in twice to not have to wait an hour and a half throughout the park day. Rock and Roller Coaster is a little different. It's going to have long lines. It's going to be about an hour-ish in the peak summer when it's really, really hot. But I would put Toy Story a little higher on that list because Rock and Roller Coaster has a single rider line. So if you're not going to be wanting to ride with a bunch of people in your party, you'll have a much shorter wait by going in the single rider line. This isn't as big of an ordeal as it was about a year ago when it first opened, but Seven Dwarfs Mine Train is another one you'll want to Fastpass. The ride is really short. And a lot of people, I don't think, realize that and were kind of disappointed they had to use their Fastpasses for it, but you're gonna need it because lines are still kind of long, they're not as long, and Fastpasses don't go as quick as they used to. So you should be able to still see some availability at the 30-day mark if you're not on property. Seven Dwarfs Mine Train and Anna and Elsa are very close together. So if you're going to get both of those fast passes, try to strategize so you're not running around each park. So get Anna and Elsa for whatever time, and then try to get within the hour before or after for Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. I haven't had the experience of walking up on this ride yet, so I don't know how long lines are at this moment, but I do know that it was mandatory for us to fast pass it last summer. At Epcot, there are 2 Tier 1 places you'll need to choose between, and I think these have equally long lines, Soarin' and Test Track. Preferably, and this is the strategy we used, we like to fast pass Soarin' because I think their lines are a little longer. The line doesn't move as quickly as Test Track. So when we went during Extra Magic Hours, we went to Test Track and did that, and then went and used our Soarin' Fast Pass. Test Track has a moving line. I mean, it broke down while we were there, so our line was a little longer than anticipated. But with Test Track, the line is always moving, and then you get sent to a room to make your car, and then you get through another line, and then you get on. So it's like you're constantly moving. It's not as long as what Soarin' feels like, where you're at a standstill waiting for the ride to take place, because it's more of a, like you're watching a screen and you're sitting in a seat, so it's not something that's constantly moving around like Test Track. So depending on if you have height requirements or people that are going to want to ride those, they're both about 40 to 45 inches for those. So I would pick Soarin' if you have younger kids, and maybe Test Track if you have an older group. Back to Hollywood Studios, Tower of Terror is a Tier 2 reservation, which is a pretty cool deal because you can do that in Star Tours if you're the thrill ride seeker. Tower of Terror lines are about mediocre. They're not as much as Toy Story Mania, obviously. So getting this as a fast pass, pretty good idea. Summertime, I know that waits can be up to the hour mark, 45 minutes to an hour. So if you're gonna be in the parks in the afternoon, that might be a good time to get a fast pass for that one, because that's afternoon time for all of the parks is a peak time for people to be in them. That's why I always suggest that that's the time you take an afternoon break, because you don't want to be where everyone's at. Go back to the resort and swim and maybe take a nap. Space Mountain used to be a top priority for many guests. It hasn't really run out of fast passes like I had assumed it would because of the new expansion that they put at Disney, at Magic Kingdom. So the lines for this vary. Space Mountain breaks down more than any other attraction at Disney World. So fast pass times, this happened to us, not for this ride, but if a ride breaks down during your fast pass time, they will let you go back on it at another time. You'll probably get a notification on your My Disney Experience account to tell you when to come back to ride it. We have just been lucky enough to always been able to ride Space Mountain right after it's broken down. We fast passed it at least once while we're there. If we're gonna be there multiple days, we don't do it more than once, but the other Magic Kingdom rides, we tend to fast pass more than Space. We got on, if you get there right in the morning, that's a great time to ride it. You don't need to use a fast pass for it because you can ride it a few times without a wait. Same with Splash and Big Thunder, but Splash, I mean, riding it first thing's not a priority, so you'll wanna wait until it's hot to ride that. So Space Mountain, if you just time it correctly and you know to get there in the morning or ride it at the very end or in evening Extra Magic Hours, or just continuously check your phone on the wait times, because if it breaks down, everyone gets off and you can just be around when it pops back on. We had a 5-minute wait one morning because it had broken down for a good hour and a half in the morning, and we're in the right place at the right time. Animal Kingdom, Expedition Everest is probably the only one that's gonna have massive lines, but because you get to pick 3, sometimes I like to throw in Dinosaur with that, and then the Safari. But Expedition Everest is probably the one that's gonna have the longest lines of the day there. It is a roller coaster, it's great, but I've seen a decline in the lines here because Animal Kingdom is just not seeing as many guests for full days as they once did when it opened, because Animal Kingdom's the first one to close, and again, people don't spend full days there. So I would say I would probably fast pass Expedition Everest in the early afternoon, and then if you're going during the summertime, you may actually want to think about Cali River Rapids because it's gonna be hot and that gets you drenched. That's a good afternoon fast pass. But again, the lines aren't crazy unless it's in the summer for that ride. Speaking of water rides, Splash Mountain, especially during the summer season, is one you'll want to fast pass. We're talking about an hour wait. That line is very misleading when you approach it because it weaves so much. There is a ton to look at, so the line does move frequently, but I just remember as a kid riding this ride and the lines being huge. So this is always a fast pass for me. Magic Kingdom, it's really easy for me to pick out because I always pick, if it ends in Mountain, I pick it. But if you have children, you're gonna have to consider Anna and Elsa and all that. But I would put Splash Mountain toward the middle of my list. Next to it is Big Thunder Mountain, which is also a ride that's gonna have about 30 to 45 minute waits at the peak times. So if you're gonna Fast Pass Splash, you might as well Fast Pass Big Thunder. They're very close together and easy to just double dip quickly, and then once you're done with those, if that's your second and third Fast Pass, you can go and get a fourth. So I mentioned all of the thrill rides. I think I put them in for the top, and I think we've gone through 9. So I have one more that I recommend as a Fast Pass, and this just blows my mind that I actually recommend this as a Fast Pass attraction because it literally lasts maybe 2 minutes. Peter Pan's Flight. They've redone the queue, so you can walk through this new cool, it's like an interactive London scene, and it's from the book and the movie, so you get to see some cool stuff. But if you Fast Pass it, I think you bypass that stuff. But the reason it's on my list is because 45 minutes to an hour wait for a kiddie ride, in a sense, is insane. So if you have young kids and you're not going to be doing thrill rides, make sure Peter Pan's Flight is on your Fast Pass list, because about noon to 5, it's going to be crazy long. That is something you can do early morning. I've had various guests that once they get to rope drop, they make sure that's their third that they hit while they're at Magic Kingdom after Anna and Elsa Mine Train and then that, because the lines will start to get crazy. So that's my top 10, and I know there's some of them that were together, so it's not really 10 attractions, but 10 areas where you can select Fast Passes. If you ever need any more suggestions or have any questions, let me know. These are my personal picks, and I'm always welcome to hearing what you think is a priority. So if you'd like to leave a comment and let me know what is a priority for you when you Fast Pass, let me know. I just like to know what other people do. Thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. I try to put videos up weekly to keep you informed on all the latest news and some new tips. And be on the lookout for a great series of videos coming up in the next month. I will talk to you all really soon. Have a magical day. Bye.